Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another Greyscalegorilla podcast. With me, as always, is Mr. Chris Schmidt.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. We have a special guest today.
We do. There's an extra head in our hangouts right here.
Coming to you live from the floor of my mom's bedroom.
Yes, we have a good friend of ours, Josh von Praag. Is it von Praag, or is there like a better way to pronounce that last name?
I think Van Praag. It's usually go for.
There's no Von. It's Van.
I think if you wanted to go full out, it's like Von Praag. But like,
okay, I'll do that.
Midwest, a lot of times I get Van Praag or Van Praag.
Van Praag.
Yeah. I'm fine with all the above. So.
Well, Josh is a friend of ours. He's in Chicago, and he's a motion designer at the Mill, and we're super excited to have him on the show. We're going to pick his brain about what it's like. He was a freelancer in New York, a little bit in LA, and in Chicago. That's how I met him. I brought him in when I was at DK, and I referred to him as what did I always say? You have the best hair in motion design. And I'll take it. I stand by that because I would know. Anyway, so yeah, Josh, he's an awesome dude, and he works at a great studio, The Mill in Chicago. So we're going to ask him a bunch of questions a little bit later. So stick around. Right now, we're going to get into our regular news. Let's go around to GSG. What happened? What happened last week, Chris? I think there was something.
It was a tiny little thing, I think.
Little thing. It's not really. Oh, that's right. We launched Signal 1.5.
1.5 is out. Signal BPM. Super cool. I think it's an amazing update. It's the biggest update we've ever done on a plugin, I think. It's such a huge thing. And it was a free update. And it's so much fun. I've been obsessively using it. It's just so much fun to play around with and tinker with. If you guys haven't checked out any of the videos or even the tutorials, go and check out the new feature list and see if it's something you might be interested in. If you like the stuff we do at Greyscalegorilla, buying a tool from us and getting it to do some work for you is the best way of supporting it.
That is so true. And it's actually it's one of my favorite plugins. I know I've said it before, but like it's one of those ones that you don't really kind of know that you need until you try it, or at least watch a few videos and see what it does, and then you realize how quick, how much time it'll save you, and just in terms of iterating for your clients and all that kind of stuff. But the BPM thing, I didn't think like I was going to use it that much because I'm not really like I'm doing a lot of VJ like music stuff. But it actually is really fun and really easy to use. And over the weekend, I forgot to tell you this, Chris, before, but I was playing around with it in Arnold, like having it drive some Arnold shaders and Arnold lights and stuff. It was pretty cool.
I want to see that.
A lot of fun. Signal 1.5. Go check it out on our site. We got all kinds of like really awesome videos that beta testers made. That are in our commercial and kind of peppered around the spot. And then we've got a ton of the training videos that Chris made, kind of going over all the features. And if you're like me, like before you think about buying a plugin or a tool, I'll watch like the training to see, number one, how it works and how easy it is to use. And Chris put together a really awesome list of videos kind of going through all the new features. And then we still have some old videos too, like for when it launched, like for the basic stuff.
I wonder, I didn't check, but I have a feeling that the tutorials on how to use the new features are longer than the videos on the initial release of the plugin. Like we've added so many tools in this version that it's longer than the initial release, which is crazy.
Yep. So if you're already updated to 1.5 and you're digging it, share what you're making. We'd love to see it. Send us some links into the comments. Let us know what you're doing with it, because it's always fun to kind of see stuff that you work on get used by people, and it's inspiring for us to see what you guys do with it. Anyway, so that was kind of our big news last week, right?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Actually, is there anything else? We're in the middle of a 4th of July holiday weekend.
Yep. Well, we got a lot of stuff that we got cooking.
Yes, definitely, but not really stuff we can talk about, can we?
Yeah, it's all top secret. It's all very hush hush.
Is there any render wars? It's been pretty quiet on that front actually for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, not a whole lot moving around there. I've been spending more time in Redshift lately, just because they fixed some things that were kind of annoying and keeping me from using it more often. So if you've been paying attention to like the renders I've been leaking out for a new HDRI expansion pack that we'll talk about in a couple weeks, I've been using Redshift on that, and it's been phenomenal. And I'm really digging that. But then I was messing around in Arnold over the weekend, like I was saying, and I still really like that. So it's nothing really that new. No new announcements. Maybe something.
Have we finally hit saturation?
Ah, man, I don't know. Maybe.
I feel like we're super saturated at this point, and we're gonna have to see like a culling.
The great culling.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I'm really looking forward to SIGGRAPH and seeing like what people are going to be talking about, and I'm really hoping Arnold on GPU comes out before the end of the year. I'm really hoping it does, because I think that's going to turn a lot of heads.
I have a question, because I don't pay super close attention to the render stuff. I remember at SIGGRAPH, I think last year, Octane was making a bunch of promises of what they were going to be showing off, and they were promising to be out before the end of the year. This is for last SIGGRAPH, not this SIGGRAPH. Did that update ever come out? Like, did they have the big?
And it really, yes and no. I mean, there was a new update 3.06 that brought a lot of interesting new features, but a lot of the stuff that people were wanting, I don't think a lot of it was done. They still haven't really nailed down their whole farm thing. Like, they were supposed to launch, and I think it may be actually live right now. And I'm sure a bunch of Octane people are screaming at me, "It's out. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about." But yeah, they were supposed to launch like their cloud rendering service, but I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about it not working properly. And I know what I was going to say.
Oh, I know what you're going to say too. Go.
I totally forgot about this. PixelPlow, our cloud rendering service of choice, is launching their GPU service, and they launched with Cycles support, not Cycles 4D yet for cinema, but that I'm sure will be soon. And another GPU renderer they'll be supporting soon. And I'm pretty sure it's not Octane, because Octane has a crazy license agreement. Basically, like, they keep everybody from using it on the farm. So if you see, and I know a bunch of people will be like, well, no, that's not true. Octane is actually, you can use it on Ranch, you can use it here, you can use it there. I'm pretty sure they're all violating the user or the license. If you're a cloud service using Octane unless they have like a personal like letter from Julian at a toy, you're probably breaking the license agreement. So those are not legit unless, like I said, there's some specific reason or letter being written to them that lets them do that. So don't be fooled, is what I'm trying to tell you. But yeah, PixelPlow is rolling out GPU rendering, which is crazy, and the prices are insanely low. I think, let me look it up. I want to say it was like, man, I should have had this up before, but I totally forgot about it. Well, I'm not going to pull it up. I'll figure it out later. I'll put it in the show notes. Just know that it's dirt cheap, and it's like crazy. Anyway, so yeah, that's, I guess, the biggest update. So let's get on with the show. Josh has been sitting there patiently waiting for us to talk about him.
Yep.
So I don't have any great input on the render wars, etc. So,
well, you're an Arnold user, right?
Yeah. We had at least 2 or 3 cinema users at the Mill Chicago for a few years, and then recently let a few people go. So now it's kind of down to just myself. So a lot of the jobs, it's a tough argument to make of, hey, we got Josh over there doing cinema with Arnold, or we've got a whole visual effects crew sort of thing. So it's something that I check out, and I'm definitely interested in. But a day to day, unless they're throwing you in jobs, it's a tough thing to come across. Plus, my daughter, and trying to balance all this stuff out.
Your daughter's using Arnold or Octane. You can't get parity,
Yeah, it's definitely the case.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. Can you,
as our first kind of guest of our guest series, We
Nice.
put a whole long list of people together, and you were up there at the top of the list of people we want to try to get on, and who agreed.
The one who answered our call.
Yeah, wouldn't miss it. Thank you.
Yep.
Awesome.
Breaking new ground.
So why don't you just quickly describe to people where you came from and where you are now?
Wait. Let's start at the beginning. What made you interested in getting into this industry as well?
Sure.
I guess I can go back to my dad's actually a freelance cameraman, and I used to go out on shoots with him and whatnot. And I always ended up kind of like taking cameras and messing around with the filters, and like I liked the adjusting part of the stuff he was sort of doing. And that interested me, and then editing kind of interested me. That part where he was lugging around, 100-pound cases and stuff, all day long out in the sun didn't interest me. So I kind of, it moved more towards post-production kind of stuff. And I ended up at Columbia in Chicago and began with an editing major, and kind of moving down the line, found things like After Effects, showed kind of more of an interest in the design aesthetic of things. And kind of first job out of school was a small shop in Midtown Manhattan, and worked there for about 2 years, and then kind of just bounced around.
How did you get from Columbia to New York? Like Columbia College Chicago, because that's kind of a big step.
Yeah, I looked around and tried to find, like, my reel coming out of Columbia was terrible, and I had a tough time.
So was mine.
Yeah. I'm sure mine was especially terrible, and I sent out to a few places in Chicago, and really had a tough time finding any work. And I actually, like, for a short stint, ended up at some small print. I don't know if you'd call it a studio on like Western and Irving Park, doing like mariachi flyers and stuff. And like, it was a tough place to be for a while. And I finally was like, okay, I really never wanted to leave Chicago. I never had that thing where it's like, oh, I got to go to New York and make it big and whatever. Like, I'm from the Midwest, Cincinnati, which is where I'm now, and visiting family. And yeah, I just, I wanted to be here, and I wanted to be part of the building the industry here. But yeah, I had a tough time. So I kind of flew out to New York, and I did tons and tons of interviews and sent out to any email address I could find. And luckily someone took a chance on me at this place called Stitch Visual Effects. And yeah, I lucked out. I had, it was me and art director who did After Effects, had just come over, was kind of new into the field. I come from a print background, and then an Inferno artist who'd kind of been around for a while. And just kind of got my start there. And really, yeah, I got some nice work kind of just doing like, MTV stuff. And we had an editor who took on a lot of hip hop music videos. So I would do like, gold blingy extruded type for, them. And yeah, kind of started there. And actually, by the time I left, I had something kind of worthwhile, and I was able to shop that around a little bit. And
so you were full-time at Stitch, and then what made you want to go from full-time at a studio to freelance in New York?
I think that things had kind of run their course working at Stitch, and I was interested in actually moving back to Chicago again. And I ended up at a mode project in Chicago, and was there for full-time. This is like such a long story of bouncing between cities and everything. But yeah, I ended up at mode for about 6 months or so. And I think there just wasn't a whole lot of work going on. And so it was let go from there. And from there, that was when I started freelance. And I was freelance in Chicago for, a few months or something. But while I was saying, hey, I'm available in Chicago, I also told anyone in New York or LA, I was like, yeah, I live in New York, and yeah, I live in LA. And I just figured, whoever books me, I'll fly out. Like, it's a day rate or something like that to get out there. And I think the first time I went out to LA, I was just going on a Craigslist, posting some guy looking, I never met him before or whatever. And I slept on the floor in this extra bedroom that I rented out or whatever. And I didn't even have a car. Like, I was in walking distance of the studio that I was working at. And yeah, kind of just that sort of style.
That's pretty crazy, man.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So, I did freelance Chicago, and then headed out to LA for about 6 months or so. And then I don't know, LA just wasn't a great fit, I guess. And I just thought, well, you know what, I'm gonna go back to New York. I never got to do freelance in New York. I was always staffed there. And so I kind of, you know, there's all these great shops that I heard of, and I just really wanted a chance to kind of be there and see what's going on. So I headed back to New York and was there.
So let me get this straight. You went in Chicago. You were in Chicago. You graduated from college. Somebody took a chance on you in New York. You went staff there. Yeah. Then you bounced back to Chicago for a different staff job.
Yep.
Then you went, I'm going to go freelance they had, you know, downsizing, whatever. You end up going freelance. You go to LA for a stint, then back to New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
I guess it would have made more sense to go back to Chicago after LA, after I decided kind of LA is not really happening for me. But yeah, I mean, like I said, like there's so many big studios that I still kind of wanted to be a part of if it was an option. And I figured, well, if LA is no good and, you know, Chicago's kind of a tougher thing to do and doesn't have these names that I've, you know about and that sort of thing. So I'm heading back to New York, and actually like first job back to New York was working at Imaginary Forces doing the Terminator. I think it was Terminator 3 or 4. It was like the point of view of the Terminator. And it was so amazing, like, you know, to kind of come back to the city and like, fuck, this is like the studio that I've always wanted to work for. And it's like a sexy job and everything. And yeah, it was super exciting. And I was there for, you know, I guess 4 or 5 years or something. And then back to Chicago again, which is where I'm at now. So
wait, you went to Imaginary Forces staff there, or you were freelancing?
No,
there?
Sorry. Yeah, just freelance. Yeah.
Okay,
that was just like the first gig back from
okay.
LA. Yeah.
That's awesome. And when you came back to Chicago, is that when I met you?
Yeah, that was, we were like, I think when DK booked me, it was like literally coming in with a moving truck and like, you know, we like drove overnight kind of thing, show up at 6 a.m. And the first day that I was booked was on that, I think it was a Cisco job at DK. And like my wife basically took the U-Haul and like unloaded all of our crap, and I went straight to work or whatever sort of thing.
That's crazy, dude. So wait,
yeah,
you were married during that time?
No, we were still just dating. I think we got married maybe 3 years after, something like that. So, yeah.
It's one thing to be living on the floor and jump into LA for 6 months, but if you're married, it's like, what?
I know, dude. Like, I was just imagining, like, okay, you must have been by yourself this entire time, because no woman would like my wife would have like said, forget it, I'm done.
No. I mean, she knows of the kind of dumb stuff that I've done, and you know, and I did it, and that's fine. But yeah, there's no way in hell that's flying with her. She's not staying on the floor, and she's not. You know, Chicago was an easier sell because she's from St. Louis, also into Columbia, and it was kind of like we both always loved Chicago, so going back wasn't a tough sell. But yeah, she's not pulling the kind of dumb crap that I'm pulling. So
that's awesome.
She's smarter. She's smarter than me.
That's fun though. I like those part of the stories because it's like when the band is still underground and they're driving around doing gigs in their van. It's like that's the fun part. That's what, like when it's visceral and super real. And then you go and you sell out to the big corporations, and then it's like, oh man, the good old days.
Are you trying to tell days of living? He sold out? Is that what you're saying, Chris? Like he sold out when he took the job?
It's okay.
Yeah,
it's all right. I think about. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say it's very easy to romanticize essentially the shitty parts of it. Like in the time, it's like, this is miserable. And afterward, it's like those were like these adventurous times of going and doing these crazy things on a whim, not having a plan, like working the same day you're moving. It's like, what? Like there's no plan, there's no buffer, there's nothing. So there's a spot.
That's actually scary. It's not when you look back on it, it's like, oh, it's, you know, it was crazy and adventurous and character building and all those types of terms. But at the time, I'm sure you were probably pretty scared that you weren't going to make any money.
I mean, I moved into that place in LA, and like I didn't know this guy, and he wasn't totally creepy, but he did throw me off a little bit the first time I met him. And we're in like Hollywood, we're in like the ghetto area, you know, and like I guess that's a lot of it, but not to hate on it. I don't know a lot about LA, putting that forward. Like I said, 6 months was there, but like it was a little sketchy where we're at, and yeah, I definitely, you know, had my moments. Like I'm on this floor, and I remember in particular walking to like the Target to go buy an inflatable bed and like being like, what the hell am I doing? Like, with no car, nowhere to sleep, you know. And New York was the same thing going back freelance. Like my I lived in Crown Heights, and it was again some random dude that I met, and it turned out he was actually a really nice guy. But, you know, Crown Heights was a little sketchy, and it was a little scary to be there. And, it, you know, definitely more moments of like, what am I doing? And
Yeah.
but I guess you come out the other end eventually, sort of.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like I had similar experiences, but nothing. I didn't move around quite as much. But yeah, that when you're kind of living it and you're trying to make something happen, and you're trying to build your reel, and you're trying to get into a good shop, and you're driven, that's the stuff you do. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just how some people choose. It's why you're now staff at the mill, I think, because I don't think if you didn't have the initiative and you didn't have that drive to do all these things, then you wouldn't be where you are right now, which is important, I think, to remember that. But so tell us a little bit about like the different cities and what was it like freelancing? What are the differences between freelancing in LA and Chicago and New York?
I mean, I can tell you that New York was definitely my favorite. It's hard to like say. I was there for, you know, I was there the longest. I was there for 4 or 5 years. LA was kind of short. In Chicago, I was freelance for about a year or so before I went staff. But New York always felt great because I would run into, you know, the same guys at different studios and stuff. And, you know, you'd either be in Flatiron with a few studios that were in close proximity, or you'd be down in Soho with a few studios nearby. And it felt tight knit kind of, and it was cool to run into those same kind of people. I mean, to this day, like, I think you guys were presenting, what was that last thing in Las Vegas? Mike Schaefer was there from the mill, and I think maybe did he run into you there? He might have. Oh
yeah, Mike, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, for example, like I freelanced with him a number of times at the mill and other studios when I was in New York, and like, you know, I came to Chicago here, went staff at the mill. It's like, oh shit, you know, you're staff now at the mill in New York, like. And then, you know, again, like, you know, you guys run into each other. Like, there were so many kind of like fun, you know, moments where you just kind of see people. And I don't know, if I'd stayed in LA longer, it's not to say that that same thing couldn't have happened, but I definitely, you know, it felt really good in New York. And Chicago's been fun. I mean, I've seen a lot of the same people. I do see a lot of people kind of like, a lot of people that when I was, for the 1 year that I was here, I feel like have left and gone to LA or gone to New York. But I guess it's just the scale isn't as big in the freelance market for Chicago, so it just feels a little different. But I mean, all of it's been a good time, and there's something really nice and to be said for, you know, most bookings are like 1 month long or something like that, and you're kind of, you know, you're in this job and you're dealing with a certain set of people, and, you know, you grind hard until you finish that, and then at the end of the month, you know, you go on and you do another job and you do it again. It's something really nice about doing those little blocks of time, whether you're in New York, LA, Chicago, whatever. It's definitely full-time's a little more challenging for me. But yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it in all 3 cities. So
what do you find challenging about it?
I guess, like I said, you know, there's something nice. I think that every studio, I used to think that like you'd work at I worked at like a smaller studio when I started, like I said, in like Midtown. And I thought, oh man, if you're like at the mill, you know, they're going to have all the problems solved and all the technical stuff will be good and all the people will be good and everything will be good, you know? And what you find is like, it's challenging no matter where you go. But I guess the upside of freelance is that, yeah, you kind of block your time out. Like, you know, you got 1 month here, 1 month there. And like, you know, I don't know, there's something about that change that's kind of nice. But that said, you know, I know that when I was freelance and I used to work with other people that were full-time, I never felt like I was like part of the team. Like they all kind of knew like each other, and they knew who they were going to go get drinks with and who they're going to lunch with and all that sort of thing. Versus now it is, I mean, it's nice there. That is an upside of the full-time is like, you know, I'm comfortable with the people I'm around. It's never like, you know, a question mark when I show up at a studio of like, how's this going to go? And that sort of thing. So they've both have ups and downsides, but I definitely did enjoy kind of the blocking out of time that freelance kind of gives you. So, yeah,
that's cool. What's the when you're freelance? It seems like I've never been freelance, so I'm always fascinated by people that have done it for long periods of time. I guess just because I kind of started my family pretty early, and I just never felt like comfortable enough or safe enough to make that jump.
So sleeping on some Craigslist guy's floor.
I did enough of that when I was in a band. I don't need to do it for my job too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea of like, I knew a lot of people in New York as well, and New York definitely seems like, if you're going to be freelance, a good place to do it, because there's almost the qualities that you said that you like about being staff, you were sort of getting that from the other freelancers in New York, because if you're in Soho or you're in Flatiron, there's like at least 2 or 3 studios nearby that you know a freelancer who can go grab lunch with you and or go grab drinks afterwards, and you guys can both talk about, you know, BS about what chumps these guys are or whatever, you know.
Sure.
And like that, I guess if you don't have a scene like that, like Chicago, we have a pretty fair amount of freelancers, but not as condensed as in New York, where you're going to be able to run into somebody on the street. I mean, maybe, but did you find
even that stuff can be interesting though? And I mean, we should get a Chicago freelancer on at some point. But I remember one time I went to go visit at Optimus. I walk in and half of the Chicago C4D crew is all sitting in their like freelance room. It's like, what are you doing here? And you're here, and you're here. What's going on? It's like 5 different unrelated freelancers all working at the time.
That's really kind of funny, but that's how it is, you know. Like, I think a lot of people that hire these studios don't realize that it's usually the same 5 to 10 people working on their job, no matter where they take their job. They could take it to DK, they could take it to the mill or whatever. Chances are there's going to be some cross-pollination of freelancers that have worked on that campaign at 2 or 3 different studios. And that's what's kind of weird about it. You know, it's kind of like this thing that all the studios know, but I don't think any of the clients know. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. What were your thoughts in LA? Like, was that like, you were only there for 6 months, but like, were the freelancers pretty cool? Like, did you hang out with any of them, or was it?
I mean, we would always, I feel like sometimes we would like make plans like, yeah, we should totally hang out sometime. And then like nothing would ever materialize from that. But I mean, my brother was actually working out there at the time too. So like I was like living with him for part of the time after the Craigslist bid. And so I would hang out with him a lot. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really, I think there was like one other guy that I'd met in New York who was then came out to LA, and I hung out with him a lot. But aside from like my brother and this guy I knew from New York, everyone kind of just went their own way after work. And I don't know, it could be the studio, it could be a lot of things, you know. But yeah, I mean, that was the tough thing too, is I felt like in New York, you know, you go out till 2, 4 a.m. and, you know, you're out, there's a lot of nightlife. And I've always felt like, you know, everyone was kind of going home after work in LA. And now that would be amazing. Like, I don't want to go out. I just want to go home and drink and like leave me alone. But then I kind of, you know, I wanted to go out and like drink and do whatever. So
I wonder if it was different. I wonder if it was just like the vibe of the city or the age of the people you were with, the difference. I mean, when you were freelancing in Chicago, at that point, were you married, or were you just, what was the family situation like?
No, I mean, when I did the first time freelancing, I was single, and yeah, I mean, it was great. Like, it was the first time where I could like actually like afford the place. I stayed in a place by myself. Like, it was the first time I could afford to not have a roommate. And yeah, I mean, it was a lot of late nights and whatnot. Like I said, I was working at Mode, and we weren't that busy. So like everyone kind of showed up, you know, a little later. And yeah, it was a lot of, you know, going out, good time, whatnot. And I guess same in New York, but yeah, for whatever reason, just that stint in LA. It always felt like, you know, there wasn't a whole lot going on, and I was like driving everywhere. And I know that's like a cliche kind of thing to say, but you know, the 1 or 2 times that I did go out, it would be like 2, 4 a.m. and I'm really drunk, and I'm like, okay, I really don't want to drive home. I know I shouldn't drive home. I've got the car here, or like it's that, or it's like, you know, the expensive Uber ride or something from, you know, Silver Lake. And my brother's, you know, living in Santa Monica or something. But yeah.
Well, talk to us about how you ended up at the mill then. You're having this great time sleeping on air mattresses, and I mean, what would ever persuade you to go staff?
Yeah, I mean, I was freelance for a year in Chicago, and then I started. The mill opened, I don't know, probably 6 months or so after I had gotten there, and so I was doing kind of longer stints there already, and I just felt like, when you go full time somewhere, or even if you're freelance somewhere, I feel like what you're looking for is like you're kind of bringing the talent, and hopefully the studio is kind of bringing you good creative, or is kind of looking out for your well-being and that sort of thing. And I felt like the mill had a lot to offer as far as bringing good creative and making sure the jobs run smoothly. And I was like, like I've been freelance for a long time now. This is a really great studio. Like back in the day, the idea that a place like the mill would be in Chicago, and past that, they're like, they'd want me to be there. Like that was amazing that I could stay in Chicago and I could work for this huge studio. So it was kind of, it's just something I couldn't pass up. I wanted to, just see what was capable. Like I still really like the idea of, rallying for good work and building the scene in the Midwest, especially in Chicago. And so, so I signed up to go full time, and I mean, about 4 years in now, something like that. So
wow, 4 years. It's been 4 years. Oh my God.
Give Chad a crisis here.
Jesus.
So we're gonna make sure to post a link to your portfolio, but you've got a lot of variety to your work. I was just wondering if you'd like to speak a little bit to how you go about the creative process and what type of work you like doing.
Sure. I mean, I like variation. I like being both. I mean, even beyond the aesthetic of it, I think it's great to kind of be on, the design pitch board section for a while, and then move, over the next job and be animation. Like it's two different, sides of your brain sort of thing. It's fun to kind of switch up between that and switch up between styles. For me, the bottom line, despite what the aesthetic is just that it's a strong design, that, it's a strong look, it's well thought out, but I get into anything, that's cell animated to, super high end, but also like a design, like a man versus machine kind of thing, or I guess animate, that sort of thing. Like I really have pretty varied, as the website shows. Bottom line is just that, it has a good look and feel and story to it, and I'm good otherwise. So I'm not really. I don't need to be this way or that way. I would say that I definitely shy away a little bit from live action. I like to be like a fully immersed world, but other than that, I'm pretty open. So
I love seeing Cisco up on your site.
Yeah, I mean, I like that job. I had a good time on that. I remember trying to pitch you on the idea of doing some of the cartons in C4D, and that wasn't happening. But otherwise,
no
it was
way.
a good time. Yeah.
Now you probably couldn't talk me out of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I heard that you switched over, I was like, yeah, that's great. Like, this guy is a super talented guy, and we need more people like this to kind of help build this platform. So yeah, I'm psyched about it. So
that was I'm looking at the job because I spent so long since I watched it, but that was a fun job, man. That was Tim Tompkinson did all the illustrations for this job. That we'll put a link in the description, and he's like a really amazing illustrator, and he created all the texture maps and all the different illustrations for this. And Josh brought a lot of it to life. It was really really a lot of fun, and it wasn't God, who else was on that job?
I think Joe was there for it, and Joe Donaldson. And
Joe Donaldson. Yeah,
Pete,
he did.
I forget what Pete's last name is. He's now out in LA. I think he's working full time for Buck, maybe.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Peter. I don't know.
That was fun. Yeah,
but I mean, that job, like that guy's that illustration style. I mean, that's the kind of guy that you can put up a page of 10 illustrators and you can point out which one is his. It's got a good aesthetic and quality to it. And that's why I put up on the website. It's like that's some solid work. It's a nice aesthetic. So
it's a cool gift too.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a very specific question here. I'm looking at the piece you've got, the McDonald's Magic Box. You know, I do my Ask GSG show on Wednesdays where people ask a question about Cinema 4D and we try and do it. And a reoccurring question is the pop-up storybook style.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got going here with the McDonald's thing. We'll put another link in there for that. And I was wondering how much happened on the technical end of that one, and how much of that is real and how much of that is totally fake. As far as like, I'm assuming it's entirely digital.
Yeah, I want to say
is it how much of it is fake digital and how much of it is kind of proper storybook mechanics or pop-up book mechanics?
I mean, I was I guess more on the initial pitch and the design and the frames and whatnot, and then I went over to Maya for execution. But I can definitely say that we bought like 7 pop-up books, and that was definitely the intention of like we've seen this pop-up book aesthetic a million times before, like let's actually make it feel true to these pop-up books. And I know that I don't know how it actually unfolded or how much of that came to life, but I know that was a huge part of it. Was like if it's not possible in an actual pop-up book, let's not do it. So we were definitely pulling, style and reference and whatnot from that sort of thing.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, I'm looking at it, trying to like it, as if this was something someone was asking me how to make, and I can't. If there's any fake parts, I can't see them, but I'm also not seeing the mechanisms in order to like actually make it fold and unfold. So like it is, if it is, depending on how fake it is, it's hiding it very, very well. But I've kept saying that people wanted me to try and do a storybook or a pop-up book kind of tutorial, then someone send me a pop-up book and I'll take it apart and we'll figure out the mechanics and try and like rig it in Cinema 4D.
Yeah, I was super glad when they really did try and push for that, because I mean it is you've seen it a lot of times where you just do like, well, we'll do the pop-up book thing, or like it's like this like group of cliche ideas like we'll do a world made out of the product that the client has or something, and it is cool to like actually take it to a more practical place, and I think it gives it kind of new life to it. So
yeah, I like that piece, and then the other piece that I'm looking at is pretty simple, but I just think it's really pretty, which is the 1K Fulton Move, the promo that you guys did when you opened the mill office, or moved the mill office rather.
Yeah.
You did like that wood block piece. Can you talk a little bit about how that came about? And
yeah, that was, I mean, we decided we were going to come up with a whole kind of package and look, and we were going to put it, kind of, there's screens down in the lobby, 1K Fulton, and that was going to kind of run on the screen, and we were going to do t-shirts and water bottles and, do stuff on Instagram. And so we had, I think it was Cameron Spencer, the creative director, and then Adrian Navarro was probably the lead designer on that. And they kind of had this 2D aesthetic to everything. And I was kind of off on other jobs while a lot of that was happening. But when I saw this map that that wooden thing is based off of, I kind of saw it from a distance, and I immediately was like, oh, that'd be so cool if it was like just kind of chunky blocks or something. And that idea always stuck with me. And I was like, oh, I know that doesn't like totally fit with the 2D thing we're sort of doing, but man, that would be really cool to do. And so I finally had 1 day or 2 days of downtime. And I took, that map that he had that was kind of a 2D thing and kind of turned it into wooden blocks and did the animation and the render. And it's not often that we really get to do a lot of fully immersion, C4D Arnold type things in design. And that was, I think, probably the very first job that I did in Arnold on cinema. And yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it's always the case of like the jobs you're most proud of usually are like, or the ones that are the most fun, or like you get a day or two to turn it around or something super short, and you just make it work. And that was one of the ones. And yeah, I love that one. I mean, it was a lot of fun to do. I wish we got, kind of more of that sort of work.
Can you talk a little bit about how, and this is kind of interesting, maybe a lot of people don't know this about the mill, but there's the mill design, which is where kind of you sit and you do Cinema 4D and After Effects and all that sort of thing. But then they have an entirely other 3D department that does Maya.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that work when something like this comes along? How do they decide when it's a design 3D job and when is it a Maya 3D job?
Yeah, I mean that's always a really tough thing. Arnold was really huge in kind of helping, I guess, level things out more. Because I think before there was like this idea that, well, cinema is like fast and cheap, and we'll just like, if it's a quick extruded text thing, we'll give it to the guys in design or something. This isn't really speaking as much to the mill, but just in general. But once you have the same rendering platform, you were like, listen, hey, this can finish out the exact same way if it goes to Maya or it goes to Cinema. This is the same thing, and that's been kind of an ongoing struggle to get producers to see that, like, these are the same platforms. You give the time or you don't give the time, and the product is going to come out, to pay based on what you put into it. So it's tough. Right now, it's a hard sell because previously we had basically myself and another cinema artist, and then we had like a creative director who's also interested. So it was like a 3-man team more or less, and then you got like I don't know, 20, 30 guys that all do the same thing, and 20, maybe
20, 30 guys using. You mean in
Maya? Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like hey, we can, and like so that was previously, and now I'm the only guy there now with Cinema. So it's hard to say, hey, send it over Josh's way or send it to this huge team.
So how far are you learning Maya then?
I'm well, for a while we had Tim Sepulveda was full-time with us, and I was super excited. I was hoping to step into Houdini a little bit, and we kind of share thoughts a little bit.
Yeah, how much Houdini is there a lot of Houdini being done over there?
We have, I think, currently maybe 2 artists for Houdini. Before
in Chicago?
In Chicago.
Wow,
the rest,
that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely try and get as much work as we can to go that way. But I think in an ideal situation, anything that has a strong design aesthetic to it, I like to think would go to the design department. And anything that has just a heavy visual effects component to would go to the visual effects department. But I guess we're always kind of lacking in these super heavy, but smart design type jobs. Like, they're hard to come across in Chicago. And I guess that's kind of like the bigger note is just, the jobs don't exist as much for that sort of thing. I can't help like these.
The line is blurred too, though. Like it's not.
Yeah.
There's not effects jobs and design jobs anymore. I mean, I think that maybe there used to be when there used to be a lot more live action components and a lot more compositing components to jobs. But I feel like the work in both those worlds are blending. And that was one thing that at DK we did pretty well, was we could kind of walk in both of those worlds equally. And we always were bringing or trying to bring a design aesthetic to a VFX job to make it, I don't know, less VFX-y, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, I can imagine it would be tough to be at the mill, whose core fundamental strengths are heavy technical VFX work. And when you need like a crazy character thing and look photoreal against live action footage, like that's who you go to. Yeah. The mill is known for that. I mean, some of my favorite work of the past 15 years is out of that studio. But that was back when a lot of it was live action based, or it was augmenting a live action plate or doing something like that. So if a job came to you now, like let's say it had a live action component, and let's say it was a CG component, but a design CG component. Let's say it was, I don't know, something of that nature. Do you guys get into a room and like talk about where it should go or how it should go? Or like, how do you guys navigate that?
I mean, I think in an ideal setup, we try to have those kind of conversations. It always, kind of comes down to how quick that turnaround is and what's happening. I think one thing we do really well is, if something that is considered a design job, like we had that Georgia Lottery job that was like a lot of 2D character rigging. But when we were kind of in the early stages of that, we did try to bring in like people who are more in like the Maya character rigging, just to sit in and like, if there was something, that we're not thinking about that they can kind of bring to the table, and vice versa. I think that's something that I guess in the last year or two we've been trying to do more, of kind of melding the two departments together. And I know that, I'm probably gonna get his name wrong here, Mario Stepinovich, in the New York office, that's a huge thing that he's been pushing for, is like, stop seeing these as separate departments and as one department, with just different strengths and weaknesses and different platforms they're working on. In an ideal situation, I think you want to have those conversations early, and we try to have those conversations early, and we try to not see divides. But yeah, you do end up with like a lot of these quick turnaround jobs, and you don't always get that kind of thought process into it, which is unfortunate, but on kind of just the nature of things sometimes. But I think we definitely do a really good job of it, and we're doing more and more of it as time goes on. So it's good to see for sure.
What about the London office, and like how much work do you guys pass back and forth between all the different offices?
There's a little bit here and there. I think I've definitely worked on at least 2 or 3 jobs that were based out of London and came over to Chicago, 1 or 2 New York, 1 or 2 LA. I mean, it's not all the time, but it's, again, something we're trying to do more of. I actually had I haven't had a whole ton of downtime since I've been at the mill, and I had like a week of downtime about 2 months ago, and built like a WordPress with like this ultimate member plugin, like a directory that would say, here's all the people at the mill, their strengths, their weaknesses, what kind of jobs they'd like to be on. Because currently there's something like that, but like, I don't know, it'd be nice if it was, there was more there. And the idea is to know, hey, this person likes this style, this is their technical strengths and weaknesses. Like, the guy that might be perfect for our job might be sitting idle in London or New York or LA. And so I built this thing, and right now it's just, off the shelf stuff. And I don't think that they'll end up going forward with how it is right now, but we are like building a new version of that, trying to be able to do more of sharing jobs and get the right guy in the right place. So.
Yeah, because I mean, I know what that's like working at a place that's got multiple offices, not quite as many as the mill does, but a lot of times producers, out of sight, out of mind, they don't know who does what and what their strengths are, what they're trying to get better at. So it's always like, we could have had that guy, he's free and he's over there and he does this really well, or that girl over there in New York. But if the producer doesn't know, then they don't know.
Yeah.
So
it pains me to think about that idea that you'd bring in someone freelance who maybe isn't that great for this, and you've got like the perfect dude sitting in another office, and maybe he's not doing anything right now, and he's already there, he's staff, it's frustrating to think about. And so yeah, hopefully we're creating something like that helps avoid that happen in the future.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. What about Slack? Do you guys use Slack to kind of communicate?
Design was using it for a little bit, but I think Rocket Chat is currently what they're mostly using between.
What's that like?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's actually worked pretty well.
You seem a little hesitant there. I'm sensing that you maybe don't think it is.
I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent. Like, at the end of the day, all that I care is that everyone's signed on and we can all talk to each other. Like, before, I think I was using, just the Mac messages thing, and I can log into GChat with it. I can log into, AIM. I can use the iMessages thing. Like, whatever gets everyone on the same page at the same time is all I care about at the end of the day. Slack is kind of slick. Rocket Chat is nice too, but yeah, I mean, they're both good. And yeah, I know
you don't think that.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything. It's all good. It's all
like I said, but at the end of the day, all I care is that everyone logs on at the beginning of the day so we can all talk to each other, and whatever gets everyone online at the same time and makes this thing easiest is all I really care about. So
does it integrate with any sort of job management tools? Or I guess the bigger question is, everybody who doesn't work at the mill, they think oh man, they must have some crazy awesome project management system and asset searching.
Yeah.
Does that exist?
Yeah, I mean, to some extent. There's a tool we have called The Loop.
I mean, don't talk about anything you can't talk about.
Yeah. yeah, I'm pretty sure that, I guess, you know, without going into names, yeah, we definitely have databases of footage and, you know, where the job's kind of at right now. There are a few tools for sure.
And have you found those to be helpful, I imagine?
Yeah, definitely. We're always kind of, I think we're right now we're in between what we kind of had set up and a new system. So things are a little in between right now, but it's definitely the best system that I've seen so far of the studios I've been to. Like, you know, that I mean, you know, from what I can remember.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it's yeah, it's good.
I'm gotta wonder, like, what is it like now that you're on the other side of the fence? Are you bringing in freelancers, and what are you seeing? Like, what do you wish Chicago freelancers were doing or could do? Or are you getting everything you need out of that market, or what's the situation there?
I mean, we could always use more, you know, technically savvy, you know, cinema people. But I know, I mean, there's a good amount of people. I guess we don't really bring in that much freelance at this point right now, where it's a huge issue. I guess I'm not looking for a skill set or certain thing. I always just like find it hard to just find people. Like, and you know, if you want to bomb my email or whatever with stuff, that's fine. I just always kind of feel like, dude, there's like how many schools here, and I have a tough time finding who's out there besides who I already know about. Kind of.
You guys start coming to more meetups, man.
Yeah, maybe that's.
Well, even the meetups too. There's a lot of the same people too. Like, I know what you're saying, and like I struggled with that as well. Like, just like there's got to be like new students that are like graduating and looking to get an internship or leg in the door somewhere.
Again, it's like, yeah, like I'd like to pull from people, you know, that are here. Like, let's not just pull from like, you know, RISD or SCAD. Like, there are a lot of other places out there, and I wish that I was able to find them better. Or I mean, I'm 100% sure that there are really talented people in Chicago that we're not using yet. And you know, if I could find them, it'd be great. So
well, give us after we wrap here, give us some place, because anybody that's interested in freelancing, they're in Chicago, or interested in freelancing at the mill. We'll have Josh give us some contact info or some place to send you, and we'll put it in the show notes, and you'll get hopefully you'll get some leads.
Yeah. I'm always down. You know, like the way I see it is like someone has given me a chance many, many times, and like I am more than happy to, like, you know, hear other people and try and advance, you know, what they're looking to do if it's possible, and
let them sleep in your back bedroom on an inflatable mattress.
Go through the hell that I went through. It'd be great.
Oh man. Well, Chris, you got any other?
No, I think we're right here on the mark. This was great.
Yeah.
If we can get all the interviews from this point forward to go as well as this one, I'll be quite happy.
Yeah, no doubt, man. This is I found it to be really really great and insightful, and I just, you know, looking at your hair this whole time has just been fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm glad to be part of it.
Awesome. So we'll put show notes down so you can look at Josh's work, and you can hopefully, if you're interested in freelancing over at the mill, you can send him, or wherever he gives us an address for, send you over there, and you can apply, and they can look at your stuff and maybe get you a freelance gig. Anything else you want us to throw in the show notes, Josh?
No, I don't think so. I'm all good.
All right. I think that should wrap it up. You can find the podcast at all the regular places. What are those regular places, Chad?
iTunes, Google Play. There's like another one that's like just a podcast place. I forget what it's called. That one always slips me. But if you just Google it, you'll find it. Or you can just listen to it on our site, on our blog page, or our YouTube channel. I mean,
YouTube's the only one where you can see us.
Yeah, if you want to see the fantastic head of hair that is Josh Van Praag, then yeah, you should watch it on YouTube. But then you also have to look at us, and we're not nearly as good looking.
Definitely don't have the hair.
No. But yeah, so thanks for coming on the show. Everybody, thanks for listening. We hope to bring you more of these interview style podcasts shortly. And we've got a long list of people we're going to be reaching out to. So look forward to that. Chris, you want to take us out?
I think we already did. Thanks everybody for coming in. Thanks for being our guest, Josh. And I'll see you guys next week, hopefully. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.